Hello and welcome to Who Dares Rolls Mumble Jumbo for January, sometime in January. It's the second week, I don't know, it's about mid-January, not even that. It's somewhere in the midst of January. So, hello, Happy New Year again. Stuff's gone on, but nothing of, it's been a big busy couple of weeks and blur. Anyway, how are we all? We all good? We're all set and done, and we're into the new year now, 2023. Just giving, just keeps on giving. So we're out. The elephant in the room. The Frosthaven has arrived. Frosthaven has arrived. Lovely, very good. Right. Anyway, yes, Frosthaven has arrived. What have I played? Let's just do that. We'll come back to that in a minute. So we'll just do play. We'll do all that in a minute. Played games. Last night we sat down, it was me, Robbie, Ben and Bob on a Friday night gameage, and we sat down and played Frostpunk, because Ben received that last week. This is the big Frostpunk game. Now if you've not played it, Frostpunk is a video game, sort of Steam, I know for definite, and other things I'm sure. It's kind of a real-time strategy, sort of resource management type thing, set in sort of steampunky future in England, where there's been like an ice age, and basically you're like one of the last remnants of humanity that has huddled to this giant sort of generator burner thing, which you'll heat this colony, you'll build it out from there, and as the heat kind of dissipates, then stuff is harder to produce and make or whatever. Running through this, I think they would link to the This War of Mine guys, or it's got very much that This War of Mine kind of feel, in that there's a story going on and you're going out and do expeditions and you're making choices, so the actual population within your colony is also kind of suffering. There's storms coming in, and very good, very thematic, it's quite cool, it's punishing. There's just kind of you against the elements. So, a lot going on in the video game. I enjoyed it. I played it. We have now Frostpunk the board game, which I believe is coming from the designer Nemesis, whose name has escaped me. I'll flash it up on the screen, no doubt. So, going in, I was expecting a deeply thematic game, but fiddly. It's kind of my feel what we were going to get, because Nemesis is the same. Deeply thematic, but a lot going on, and a bit fiddly. Just a bit, maybe it works, it's good. Once you know what you're doing, you're fine, but there is a lot going, a lot of moving parts. And I felt, oh yeah, the video game is busy, it's going to be a lot of moving parts. There is a lot of moving parts. It's a tremendous looking game. Obviously the centerpiece of it is the generator in the middle, which also works as kind of like a dice tower. You put cubes in during the game, and if they come out the bottom, then that's further damage to your generator. So as a thematic and as a gameplay, and it all looks right. You know, if you're going to design Frostpunk the board game, that's what I would expect it to look like. We played mainly with all the wooden components, all the stuff. Ben has all the Kickstarter extras, but in usual blingage of the big gushing oogles of plastic, very nice, but when you use the plastic buildings, because I looked at them, is they don't actually give you the details that the chits do that you put on the board. You got like cardboard chits for building, artistically nice, bang on the building, and it actually tells you what that building does. It's kind of useful and important, whereas this hunk of plastic, if you put it on there, doesn't. Anyway, I diverged. I've gone off one. Point of the game is we play 4-player. I don't know if it goes higher than that. Obviously, you can play it solo. You all end up with like a sheet in front of you, which is you're responsible for certain parts of the colony. So at certain points in the game, you can reference the sheet and it tells you the bits you're doing. Actually, which is kind of neat. It's a great idea. However, that does fall down flat on his ass when you involve Bob in the proceedings, because he's ADD. I mean, he is just like fucking all over the place. So you're then got him a set of rules that we've not read everything. We've kind of skimmed it. We're rolling. Ben's already kind of I think, got the idea of the game. So I'm reading my stuff and working out. But the second round in, we work out, we're going, well, how does that work? Well, I can't understand how this is generated. And of course, what it is, it's on Bob's sheet. He's just not read it, So, great idea. Falls down when you've got an idiot like Bob at the table. Anyway, all of that out of the way. I like how the concept works, and it does. I'll be honest with you, if only the one play, obviously, we started plays long. We started about 8, and we'd finished by midnight, because it had all gone tits up. we'd only about 3 rounds of the actual game by that point in time. We were kind of out of the honeymoon period. And I think if we got good at it, it probably could have rolled for another good few hours. It does capture Frostpunk. It does very much. It does really well. You've got every one of you are doing different things. I had the social and the politics side of it, so I could look at political options to get votes swayed, and I could put forward recommendations of I recommend we do this, and it has this effect. So you're doing votes, the political side of it, which is very much a big part, and the social unease and all that sort of stuff of the original game is there. And if you make certain decisions, cards go into a deck that are kind of shuffled and stuff pulled out of that has effect on the game. So your stuff you're doing, it's not a new system, it's been done before, like Arkham Horror and all that sort of stuff. You do something, there's a card effect, and there's negative and minuses, and they go into decks, and they will come out and bite you on the ass. Robinson Crusoe comes to mind as another one. So it's not doing anything new, just a lot of kind of funky stuff. So I was doing the social things. Robbie was in charge of the generator when he was doing certain bits and pieces. Bob, stupidly, we gave him all the stats to be in control of the population and sickness and all that sort of stuff. Terrible idea. And Ben was kind of doing the meeple placement and stuff. We should probably give that to Bob. So anyway, yeah, it really does capture the Frostpunk feel. I mean, if you played Frostpunk and enjoy Frostpunk, then yes, it is that. It is Frostpunk. However, I would pretense that with it's going to play all fucking night. It's gorgeous, it's fun, I enjoyed it, I like the different mechanisms that are going on. It's very much a thematic-y co-op game, which threw me because Ben isn't normally a big co-op or thematics type guy, so I was surprised he actually went for it. But hey, good he did, because I got to play it. Would I play it again? Yeah, I'd play it again. Would I buy it? Probably not, because it's essentially TI4 levels of playtime on this one. And it's a long old play. Now, fine, if you're going to sit down for an afternoon, definitely an afternoon. You're not going to fit this in an evening that I can see. Even if you get good at it, I think you'd be pushing your luck to get this in an evening. You're looking at least 4 to 5 hours play, I feel, off that first play. I can't see how you could pare it down by maybe an hour once you've kind of got into it, depending on who's playing, of course. But we were kind of getting the hang of it as it went along. But yeah, if you got good at it and we're playing, you could go on for a while. But yeah, aside from that, it is gorgeous looking. It does very much capture the original video game. It felt like it. It did all the stuff that did. There's multiple scenarios in there, I believe. So we only played the world-based first, early, easy one. There's others in there, I know, and there's other stuff that can be added. So yeah, cool. And the giant big bits of plastic. If you kickstarted it, there's plastic resources, there's plastic buildings, and there's this dreadnought thing, this big train that I do remember featuring in the video game at some point, but it literally serves no purpose other than this giant lump of plastic. Maybe if you get bored or annoyed, you can beat someone to death with it. I don't know. Anyway, Frostpunk. So there you go. That was Frostpunk. If you're a fan of the video game and you really want a board game equivalent of that, and you don't mind having 4 to 5, 6 hours of playtime, then go for it. Fill your boots, because it's cool. You'd have to wait and find it after post Kickstarter. It's probably not cheap. Easily 150 quid worth of game, I'd expect. But yeah, I liked it. I enjoyed it. But yeah, all of the other stuff. Other than that, we played the week before, maybe I want to say, in betwixt all this, we played TO4, but I think we covered. I played Dune Imperium with all the expansions in. So I mainly covered the immortality. That's it, immortality. So Dune Imperium, if you don't know, very quickly, very briefly, deck building hybrid game, similar to Lost Ruins of Ark, except it's Dune. I like what it does. You've got this deck building thing going on, which is actually quite more thematic as more expansions have come into play, and you get fights in there, so you're battling over areas if you want. And I like all the worker placement and the deck buildery thing of it. It just all my sweet spot. Love it. And it's got the Dune license on top. So we had Rise of X previously, which added mainly a chunk more cards, a bunch more characters to play as, and another little board on the side which allows you, and an overlay, which essentially allowed you to kind of do a trade track. You could get resources easier if you invested some time and effort into this certain thing. So that's kind of cool. I liked that, how that worked. It brought the dreadnoughts into the game that you could or couldn't be bothered to use if you wanted. They were kind of nice touch and tactiles. And it just felt like, to me, a bit like Prelude does to Terraformers, it kind of rounded off the game. Perfect. Those two together, perfect. So Immortality came, played this a couple of times now. This essentially comes with like a tech board and some more cards, and a new type of card where you can. It's I don't remember. It's gene splicing. You've essentially got cards that you can buy with cubes that you get off this track. This tech track. To move along the tech track, it replaces two of the cards in your hand with these with microscopes on them. Essentially, when you play one of them, it will move you along the track, and as you go along the track, there's different options. It reminds me a bit of actually on Mars, the board game on Mars, and Beast of the Side. There's a segment in that where you're doing like tech tracks, very similar. As you go along that, you trigger different things, and as further down you are, there's more stuff you can do. It's another thing you can do. I was worried coming into it when I'd seen just shots of it that it was going to overcomplicate things, but actually it slips in there really nicely. It's the more cards into the entry decks. It's got its own deck of cards that you can buy using a resource that you get from doing actions on this tech board and using the cards I've just mentioned. So it's a separate economy going on that you can sort of invest into throughout the game, and it kind of have like a little bank of it you collect as you play these different cards off, and you can use it in the round to buy them. All kind of neat, kind of works. And I think the cards it's added are all kind of nice. They just dovetail quite nicely in there. They complement the other stuff you can do. And personally, I really like the whole package now. It's really good. I was worried that it was going to overcomplicate it and make things... I don't think it does. It sits in there quite nicely, and it doesn't feel like it's too bumpy on the edges. Is it essential? No, I don't think you need it. I think X is really the better proposition for kind of rounding out the main game. But if you've got both of them and you enjoy both of them, then this kind of is a no-brainer, really, isn't it? But if you haven't, then play the base game, then go for X, and then if all of that's good, I heartily recommend Immortality, and it's reasonable. It's about 25 quid, so it's not too bad. But it's a nice bit of game extra on top. Does push it a bit later. There's about 2.5 to 3 hour games now of that, but I enjoy what it's doing, and I've still got a lot of characters I want to play and all that. Cool. So that's it. I recommend that if you haven't got it. I do like Dune Imperium. Let's do some news. Here is the news. Well, the big news for me personally is the arrival of Frosthaven. It turned up tail end of last week. It's a big fucking box, as we'd imagined. It took me somewhere in the region of about 3 to 4 hours to sort it all out, pop it all. There was about 35 sheets of cards. There was lots of stuff in the box. You'll be seeing bits of it now on video. So just opening up Frosthaven, here is an instruction book to how to unbox your Frosthaven. That actually comes in it. This is literally how to just get everything out of the box and how to store it. Which is better, is improvement on the original. There's a lot of stuff. I've pulled some stuff out already as per the guide. There's a manky chair. There's the rule book. Let's hope. No, the first one wasn't terrible. We'll see how that one pans out. Here's the scary proposition. So we got that, and these are the punch boards, and they are big. That's a fair-sized chunk of punch board to get through. We've got some organizer bits here, my coffee, some stuff. We're going to be at this for a while. I'm exhausted already. Kind of cool. So, aside from the 35 sheets of punch board, which I've done 5 of them so far, want to kill myself. There's an organizer for that, so I've put stuff in there so you can see where that goes. And then there's an organizer for all the tokens. Although I'm intending with the boys to use the Frosthaven app. Actually, probably not the Lucky Duck one, because I've seen there is one X-Helper app, I think it is. It looks like the old Gloomhaven one. So, are we ready? Let's just go and have a peek inside the actual box. So, well, there we go. We have a yummy silica gel. Charlie loves the silica gel. Go watch him. He'll eat a lot. But there we go. So there we have all the Frosthaven classes. And like Gloomhaven, they all got symbols related to what they kind of do. And the inside of each of those is all the components and stuff for that class, and the cards and decks and stuff. Lovely. If you've not played it, then fine. There is a fucking ridiculous stack of fucking cards there. I don't know what that is. There is another fucking ridiculous stack of cards there. Mix of cards there, and baggies. Like me, lots of baggies. Stands, and I have a
sinking feeling. Oh yeah, God, that's only layer 1. So there is a layer of stuff beneath that, because there's a lot of stuff. There's fucking loads of stuff in there anyway.
But yeah, there was lots of stuff in there, lots of fucking tokens, lots of stuff to pop, rule books and scenario books and fucking map tiles and lots of cards, lots of characters, blah blah blah, hula hooah hooray. Now, I cut down on my fucking around time because I'd already had Gloomhaven and I'd been through the horrors of trying to organise that. So what I basically did was salvage all of the organisational bits from Gloomhaven that would be useful, like a binder for the map tiles, and I had deck boxes for each of the characters. We could keep all our cards and bits in there. It was a lot easier than the cardboard ones in there. And a few other quality of life things. The main one, the big one, is there was the Gloomhaven Helper app, which was fucking essential. It just did away with all the monsters. It did away with all the extra bits and pieces of the monsters and the stats and the tokens, and you could just run it off the app and just play the game. Brilliant, just fantastic. I was concerned that had disappeared, mainly to do with they were trying to sell it, I think, try and monetize it, and then something else happened and they decided not to develop it anymore. However, I found an XA Helper, I think it's called, app, XA Haven, which someone else has coded, which is pretty much exactly the same app. It's free. I've got it it's on Android, it's on iOS. I think you'll also get it on the PC. Pointing at the PC, and it does everything that I want to do. It does all the same stuff. I can't see any issues with it. Fantastic, brilliant. So I'm like, oh, thank God. And that just makes life easier. There's a lot more in the box. So break down Frosthaven. It's obviously the big brother to Gloomhaven. What this essentially adds, because I've now read the rulebook and I've skimmed and appraised everything, and I've kind of got the idea how it works. Essentially, the base game is the same. You are going on quests into caverns and stuff. They all kind of function a little bit almost like arena battles. The main core element and mechanic and fun of Gloomhaven was, and Frosthaven represents it, is each of these characters you get will have a deck of cards that you they've got top and bottom actions, and you slowly upgrade them as you go through the game. So a little bit deck building to it. And this card play mechanism of you have to play a top of one card, bottom of another, and kind of the interplay and syncing all that up and learning your class and learning how it worked. And it really abstracted that weird learning a class type thing into this card-based mechanic, and it's kind of catnip for the broad gamey mind. I really enjoyed it. So this all does the same stuff. It's more of the same, really. A lot more quests, and all the more characters. Stuff. The joy of Gloomhaven was unlocking retirement character, unlocking them. On top of all of that, the main big additions now, and I should have got the board out, and I haven't. And I'll take a shot and I'll overlay it or something. There's a big fucking board. It's huge. Oh, fuck it. No expense spared for you. Big board. So there is a big fucking board. This is particular. Fortunately, you don't have to have this out the entire game. But yeah, there's a big board, and now I'm covering the mic, and you have Frosthaven, and there's all the kind of city and stuff. This board's upside down. So at the top is all the quests you're doing. There's a stupid fucking idea. All the quests you're doing on here, and then down here is actual Frosthaven. And one of the new things they've added to the game is that you can upgrade the buildings in there. So you go there and you can put stickers over the top, and when characters retire, I think buildings go down, and you can find more buildings and build more buildings and repair them and do building stuff. And once you've got certain buildings built, that opens up more things you can do. The quest, I like the idea of the quest work. So basically, there's a quest flowchart. So it actually tracks what you're doing, and this kind of all fits together, if you can see. And there's another couple of these. As you complete quests, you go down here and you peel off these legacy style, and behind that will be a sticker that is applied to the board, but it's also tracking where you are, and you can put stickers over the top of this if you've locked stuff off, and it's got information beneath there as to where you can go next, and if there's linked quests you have to instantly do and other stuff. So it's kind of cool. I like that, and there's information on the back how that works. So you've got a bunch of them, loads of them in fact. There's a fucking load of quests. So there's all of that. So there's all the quests you're doing, which is kind of cool. On top of that, which I thought I picked up, but isn't here, somewhere over there is another card sheet, which is for alchemy, potions and stuff. And essentially you get herbs now, which is a new addition they've put into the game, is a loot deck, which is built at the start, which the old one was just you picking coins up and then you took them back and you bought stuff at Frosthaven, Gloomhaven. This one now is a loot deck, which is built up of herbs and other resources and other stuff as well as money. And whenever you loot stuff, you put on these cards and you will get an item. I'm sure as the game progresses, more cards are going to get added into there that have more effects and more stuff can be found. But you also got these different resources. So there's herbs that can be collected, and you can, once you've got certain amounts of those herbs, you can combine them, and then you, on a board similar to this, like this, you peel off windows and it tells you what the potion is, those 2 herbs thing. Kind of like alchemist, but very dumbed down. That's kind of a nice little bit of crafting. They're also crafting equipment and armors. So in the old one, you had a shop, you just went to and bought stuff. Not in this one so much. There is a shop, but you can't always visit it, you can't always get stuff. There is instead a craftsman. I'm sure more will be added as the game progresses, whereupon you can go in there and you can craft, if you've got the right stuff, wood, metal, fur, other bits. If you've got the right stuff, you can craft equipment and tools and stuff, and you can also craft more buildings or repair buildings and do stuff. So there's this whole other colony phase that takes place after you do an adventure. It mainly involves you drawing a card and then doing some stuff. But yeah, I haven't played it yet, so I've just run through it. That is the main big addition, is just like the quality of life stuff. However, it's been just tightened up and made a little bit swift. Gloomhaven was a bit of spit and shoe polish. The rough edges were on show with Gloomhaven, but it was adorable still the same. This feels a little bit of a more smoother, more professional product. And I say that not meaning that in a rude way, but just everything about it just feels a little bit, just a bit more, the chef's kiss, as they say. On top of that, so you get a scenario book, a big fucking scenario book about the size of this, actually. And in addition to that, you also get a section book. So when you do certain quests, it will refer you to the section book, which will have other maps, other stuff, other details, and other things that are going on in there on top of the scenarios. So that's an interesting addition. They're big fucking books. What else is new? Other than that, there's decks related to the colony, there's decks related to the road events, but there's also now seasonal changes. So you go from summer and then to winter, and in winter you pull from a different deck of cards, and I think you get attacked more and more bad stuff happens, and you're weaker in the winter months than you are in the summer months. So that would be an interesting thing, see how that equates into the main game and what it does to it. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell at the moment, until we've played some games of it, which I'm sure is going to be happening imminently. I will report back more. Those of you not interested in Gloomhaven and Frosthaven, it's going to probably get a bit tiresome probably some weeks from now, because I'm no doubt we're going to sink our teeth into this and play a chunk of it. But I will be having the Friday games and I will be doing other stuff, so I will break up between Frosthaven content, I promise. So there's that. Other news is the big one that we missed. Oh, I should have mentioned, is Snowdonia. There is another Snowdonia expansion. I did my preview-y kind of thoughts for 2023, and I had forgotten about Snowdonia. There is the Grand Tour, Snowdonia Grand Tour is coming. Yes, you Master Set, you thought was it, but everything, well, it wasn't. There is more. There's a new game mode, which Grand Tour makes me presume that they might link a bunch of scenarios together, I'm guessing. There is a new component, a thing that we're going to use. I don't know. And some, what was the other thing? Oh, a bunch more scenarios. And then, of course, the final fix pack. For the other fix pack is coming. That's about the gist of it we know at the moment. I love Snowdonia. I do be honest with you. If I'm absolutely honest, I have not played nearly a fraction of enough of the actual Master Set game since I have owned it. And I've barely touched the surface of the scenarios. And I don't see in my near future when that's going to happen, but I do need to revisit and rekindle my love of Snowdonia, because it is a cracking little worker placement game. Do you need that? No, probably not, but I don't think you can get any other version other than that now. And actually, to be honest with you, it's not that unreasonable. I've seen it for. Or pick up the old second edition, which I think I've still got somewhere, actually, to be honest with you. But yeah, cracking game. All the scenarios are great, but you don't need them all. The base game, I've played the base game still the most. I just enjoy that game. Anyway, so Uncle Tony nudged me to remind me I hadn't mentioned that, so I've mentioned it. I'm sorry. Okay. And if you're passing his board game of, well, I fact that out, didn't I? If you're passing his museum of board games in Wye Valley, I believe it is, then you can pop in there. I'll put the address details up here somewhere. Go there. Go and see his museum. I will one day when I can travel. Maybe the summer holidays. Get out. Oh dear. come on, my love, let's go to a board game museum. I'm sure that'll go down fucking swimmingly. Other than that, the big other news is the D&D debacle going on. I can't possibly even really say I fully understand what's going on, but I'll give you the rough, brief, my understanding of it. For many years, I think even decades now, there has been an open game license available with D&D, i.e. They essentially allowed you to take their mechanisms of the D&D stuff and homebrew your own stuff for free, and I believe even, I presume, sell it. So that was what was available. And for decades, people have produced tons of content, and it's ended up on Wizards' site, Wizards of the Coast, and now own D&D. They've had it. Hasbro owns Wizards of the Coast, and it's been ticking along, and that's been a thing forever. So in the last couple of weeks, what's essentially happened is Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast, either or, the corporate overlords between the two of them, have said, "Oh, we're going to revise the open gaming license to 1.1." Which I think essentially was a rug pull on everyone who's created anything, because it essentially said all of it is ours now. I think is in a nutshell what happened. I think the big sticking points is the open gaming license doesn't have the word I can't remember. Essentially, there is a wording in the one that if it had it, they wouldn't be able to pull it, but they can, because it says it's in perpetuity and not irrevocable. I can't remember. Irrevocable. That was a word I was looking for. Yeah, and it doesn't have that. It basically says perpetuity, which doesn't mean legal. The same thing, so they can do it. Anyway, everyone's lost their shit, and now they've subsequently backpedaled a bit on that, and then they've put out a kind of thing saying, "Hey, we didn't mean that at all." Well, we did, we didn't, and it was weird. That's about as much as I can tell you about it. I'm sure Charlie could give us a lengthy spreadsheet on it and a presentation, and we would be much more better informed than the rambling you've just been through. But the end result is, yeah, it's a bit of a shambles, really, for them. I'll be honest with you, the last D&D game I owned and played was the Red Book, the second edition, was it? Second edition. I had that, played that back in the 80s. Never really went back to it. Never invested any further into any D&D ever. And I've done lots of other stuff, but never went back to D&D. So to me personally, whatever. It's not. Nah. But yeah, I can see the shit getting real, and it feels kind of at the moment Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast are trying to EA-ify D&D to try and monetize stuff out of it, which we don't really need in board games, but I get it. They're corporate, they want to make some money out of something. There's something that looks like you can make money out, give it a shot, I guess. But that seems to have backfired. But that's the gist of that, if that makes any interest in your sense. Moving on, what else have I been up to? What have I watched? What have I watched? Oh, well, we watched Wednesday. Everyone's been roaring and raving about Wednesday, so we dug into that. I initially enjoyed the first couple of episodes. It looked aesthetically cool, quite enjoyed what it was doing. Now we're into about the 6th episode of it, and my interest has waned. It's all right. It's a very much a young adult themed thing. Selena Gomez is fantastic in that. There's a good cast. It looks gorgeous, but it's a bit young adult. It's a bit sort of CW, I want to say. I don't know, that kind of. Yeah, it just feels a little bit. Yeah, it's not really. In comparison to Willow, which I was about to mention, that I've completely given up on. At least it's kind of well written to a point for what it's doing. Willow is was a fucking car crash. I only watched about episode 3 or 4, and it just tonally and just didn't do anything. It just was badly written, poorly written, and just kind of it didn't seem to fit dovetail in any way with the original movie. I don't know. It just seemed to just glaringly clash against the two. Didn't really see where the common thread. And Warwick Davis, love him dearly, but it was a bit wooden. But yeah, just generally, I wasn't that massively invested in Willow, I'm honest with you. It was Star Wars Wizards, not Space Wizards, just Wizards. But it was what it was. I saw it and enjoyed it, but once Lord of the Rings came out, it kind of looked a bit awful. But anyway, this thing, I don't know. Anyone watched it? I don't know. I made it as far as 3 or 4, whatever the episodes that was, and just had to go, you know what, this is pretty fucking awful. Whether it was just coming off the back of Andor, I was expecting more, I don't know. But that does not play games, did acknowledge that it was pretty poor, and she's a big Willow fan, and I think even she's packed it on the head, so That tells you. And she even stuck through Walking Dead. Let's just say that. Other than that, I watched Tenet the other day because I've not seen that for a year or two, and I thought, you know what? Let's give it another blast. And I still don't fucking understand. I watched it on Prime, and the sound quality seemed better on Prime than the Blu-ray I own of it. It's Nolan doing crazy, timey-wimey stuff. I get it. I understand kind of what's doing, and it's a bit like points where you suddenly go, no, I don't understand what's going on. But it looks cool. The action sequences, some of them are pretty cool. They've shot it all backwards. Basically, just most of it's all to do with him filming the film backwards. But there's not that many special visual effects in it, actually, surprisingly for the big movie it is. A lot of it's all in camera. So for that weirdity and oddity alone, it's kind of an interesting watch. It's a strange one. I don't think it's his finest work by any means, but it's one that I still will revisit. I'm going to come back round to time and again and just go, but yeah, there you go. That's definitely an opportunity there for a board game, isn't there? Something, I don't know. Anyway, so there you go. That's it for the week. There we have it. There's mainly Frosthaven and other shit. I'll be back soon. We do some more of this with reports on Gameage, whatever we play, I don't know. Until then, look after yourself. Have a lovely weekend if you've not already having one.